Now, one of the things that Quicken Home and Business does is it actually mixes both the cash and accrual counting methods so that you'll be able to look at your business at a glance in a very simplified way. What that means then is we can take a look at payments that we know we're going to have to make based on our recurring patterns to be able to look at our cash position. So one of the things that we can do is we can actually go to this Tools menu. We can then go to this link that says Manage Bill and Income Reminders. And based on the information that Quicken has pulled over, it will try to guess about which payments you're making on a regular basis. And typically they will put them in a screen that gives you a couple of choices. And you'll notice these that you'll see here, that there are two, and you're looking at them here. So what we can do with these transactions is that we can actually do what's called scheduling. And when we schedule them, Quicken will actually place them on a calendar so that we'll know we have those payments that are going to be due. They're going to come out of our account, and then we'll be able to look at what's going to happen in the future. So what we'll do in this case is we will go to this area where it says Action, and then we will click Yes. And what we're saying yes to is we're saying yes, we want to schedule this in the future on our calendar. Now we can make any edits that we want to make inside of this screen. Most importantly, you'll notice that Quicken will remind us that this actually comes out of our account every 27th day of the month, and this was evident when the data was pulled over from your account. We'll note that it is from a particular PayPal account, and what we can do is we can actually add in the category that it's going to come out of every time. So we can actually do that in this bill reminder. When we do that, you're going to notice that we can actually write in the category, and we can use one that we've used previously, or we can create a new one as we have in other places. We can write a memo to ourselves. This memo is going to show up every month, and then we can actually tag it with some additional information. We can use tags that are already in place, or we can actually add a tag. Once we've written in the information we want for this recurring payment, we can actually click OK. Quicken will then have us tell it that we want to add a new tag. We'll click Save. Now we can actually add in data, and whenever you have the opportunity to add information, it's a good idea to add some of this information in when you have the opportunity and when you actually have the time. More information is typically going to be better than less when you're documenting what it is that you're actually doing. You can actually sync this to Outlook, and what this will do is this will remind you on your Outlook calendar that there's a payment that's going to be coming out of your account. You know, if you were going to actually pay this out of your bill, or whether or not it's going to come out automatically, and you want to just make sure that you know that it's going to be coming out of your account. If you were actually going to be writing a check to pay this, you can actually do that with this particular box. So once we've completed this, we can then click the Done button. Once we've done that, we can then click the Enter button. Once we do that, we can actually enter this transaction into our register. We can determine how it's going to be paid. If it's going to be paid automatically, we can call this an EFT, and then we can click Enter Transaction. Now, when this transaction happens inside of our account and we pull this data over at that point in the month, Quicken will actually match the two transactions and will not double count it. So we can actually do the same with any of the other transactions that we have here. And we can do this in a way so that, again, when Quicken brings the information over, it will match the information that we're putting in, talking about transactions that will happen in the future. So let's go ahead and change this transaction. And when we'll do this, you'll notice that Quicken has made a guess as to what this is, and it's guessed that this is a home bill. We want to actually go ahead and change that category. I'm going to do that by changing this to a business expense, and we want to do that and change it to the proper expense. Once we've done that, we can then click Done, and then we can enter this transaction into the register. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. As you can see, once you have completed the initial setup, you'll need to do some work on a regular basis in order to maintain and manage your financial position in Quicken. And one of the things that you can do to make that easier is you can actually memorize certain payments and payees. And to do that, all you'll need to do is go to the Tools area, and then you'll need to go to the Memorize Payee list. Now, if you have certain payees and certain transactions that happen on a regular basis, what you can do is memorize them so they will always be placed into the same category when they come in. So, for example, what you can do is you can actually go to your list, find those payments that come in or those payments that you make on a regular basis, and then you can click the checkbox. Once you do that, you can then click the Edit button. And then you can actually change the category to the one that you'll be using on a regular basis. You can actually tag the category and you can write in a memo. But what you're basically doing is you're memorizing this payee so that whenever it comes in, it goes to the same place every time to make it easier to manage. And of course, if this transaction comes over in some of those that you download from accounts, you can actually untick this button because you actually want to memorize the transaction as it comes. You're then going to click OK. You can actually place in a new payee by clicking the New Payee button. And you're going to be memorizing this transaction whenever it comes in, even if it doesn't come over from those you download. It comes in when someone actually pays you. If it happens on a regular basis, what you're doing is you are lessening the amount of manual work that you're going to be doing every time a payment is made. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Welcome back. You are now looking at a PayPal receipt or something that was paid for most recently. And one of the things that Quicken can help you to do is to track these receipts and to keep them associated with transactions inside of the program. And so what you would do is you would take a receipt like this, which has come to you by email, and you would print it into a PDF document. And to do that, you would go to this print menu and click print. And the printer you would choose would be to save this document as a PDF. So instead of clicking print, you're actually going to click this save button. So you'd come back to your Quicken account, and what you'd do is you'd find the transaction that goes with that receipt. You'd go to the line item and you'd click this gear. When you get to the menu, you would then click attachments. Quicken would then give you this menu, and what you do is you go to this add button, pull the drop down, and then click add file. Once you find the file, you click this add button and then click open into the program. Now Quicken will allow you to attach PDFs, Word documents, and text documents. So once you actually have the document and it's there, you actually have some other options. You can actually export this document to another directory that you'd be keeping track of your receipts, you'd be backing them up, and then you'd be placing them in a cloud drive. You'd also be categorizing them and keeping track of them as you go. The benefit of doing this means that you will have all of this information organized for your tax time. And once you've completed the processing you want to do, you're then going to click Done. Once you have that, you're then going to click the Save button. You'll note then that inside of Quicken, you'll see the attachment. That means then that Quicken now has this receipt. It has been attached, and you now have a notation right next to the transaction where it actually happened. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Welcome back. You are going to have cases where you have actually paid for something, and part of the purchase will be for business. The other part will be personal. Regardless, you can handle this in Quicken. What you can do is you can split the transaction once you have it in your register. And to do that, what you're going to do, we're going to go to this transaction right at the top. And what we're going to do is to go to the gear icon. And then we're going to click this link that says split. And when we get to that transaction, we're going to actually split the transaction into the proportions according to what's for business and what's for the certain category that we want it to be in. So for example, this transaction for $84.78, we could say that half of that was for business and half of that is for personal. So we're going to leave this one category as shopping and clothing. We're just going to cut this in half now. So now we have $42.39 associated with a personal category. We're going to associate the second half of this to business. And we're going to associate this with the category that we think fits best. Now, just for the sake of this video, we're going to call this a miscellaneous expense, but it's a business expense, and so it'll get categorized into our business. And so what we've done is we basically split this transaction out between personal and business, $42.39 and $42.39. Now what we could do is we could say that half of this transaction, $42.39, is for business, yet it goes into a different category. So if that's the case, what we're going to do is we're going to split this in half again. So now we have $21.19 as a miscellaneous expense. We're going to actually place this other half in office expenses. And so now we've split this out between your personal expense and two different expenses for business. And once we've done that, what we're going to do is we're going to then click OK. And once we've done that, what we're going to do is click the Save button. We're then going to be required to enter our transaction password. And then our transaction, which first started as just a personal account, has now been properly allotted into personal and two different business categories. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Welcome back. There will be times when you will make a purchase for your business when you have cash with you. If that's the case, you want to use your cash on hand account to track this purchase and make it part of your business accounting. So when you do that, what you would do is you would write in the payee. You would write a memo as to what that payment was about. So you just don't want to write in the payee. You do want to put in here what you actually purchased and why it is for your business. As you would with any transaction, you're going to determine the category. And then it's actually a good idea to attach the receipt. And so what you do here is you click this Add an Attachment button, and you would get the receipt from something either that you scanned or a file that you created. Now, if you had the file sent to your email, you can actually add the file. If you had the file scanned, you can actually get the scanned copy. Either way, you are going to add the receipt to this transaction. Once you do that, you're going to export this document to wherever it is you are tracking your receipts. And then you're going to click Done. Once you do this, you're going to write in the amount that you spent. And then you'll click the Save button. And what you've done is you've entered a full accounting of something that you've actually purchased for the business, as well as you've prepared yourself for tax time with a receipt that matches the actual transaction. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Welcome back. Now, Quicken gives you a number of ways of monitoring the position of your business. If you look across the top tab and you were to look at home, spending, bills, you can click the business tab and you'll have a number of views right in front of you. However, if you've done a very good job of taking care of your recurring payments that will happen in the future, as well as the recurring payments that you have coming in terms of income, you will be able to look at a calendar to determine what your balance will be and when it will be at that level. To do that, you're going to go to the Tools menu, and then you're going to go to the Calendar box. The Calendar box will open up into a screen that will basically tell you what your expected balance will be and when it's expected to be. For example, you'll note that this recurring payment is something that will actually happen in the future, but it's something that we notated here present. And so because this recurring payment will actually come out, we can determine what our cash balance will be going forward, and we'll be able to look at this adjustment anytime that we want to based on the activity that is happening in our business. So once you look at this transaction calendar, what you'll want to do is you'll want to make sure that you add reminders into the register of any recurring payments that are going to happen in the future. And you want to do this for two reasons. First, you'll want to make sure that you're accounting for what will happen in the future. But second, you'll be able to make sure that if you have to move money between accounts, you'll know what's going to happen before it happens by looking at this calendar. And again, if you have been thorough in making sure that you note all of the recurring payments that will happen in the future, you can actually look forward to a future month to determine what your balances will be going into the future. And what this involves is making sure that you are notating recurring transactions on a regular basis. And of course, we can always go back and look at what the balance is exactly today. Now, when we look at this balance, $504 in this particular case, this is all of the balances for all of the cash that we have in all of our accounts. It isn't just one account. If we want to look at a particular account, we'll need to go into look at our account menu to see where the balances are today. Now we can actually look at individual accounts by going to this options area, clicking select calendar accounts, and we can actually determine which accounts are going to be reflected in the calendar. We can make changes as we go. So for example, if we just wanted to only look at one account, we could actually do that. If we wanted to look at only two accounts, we could do that. So in most cases, we'll look at all accounts, but we can actually look individually at the balance as expected in an account by making adjustments to these accounts in this calendar window. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Welcome back. By putting in the transactions and placing them in the right categories when they happen, we are now then able to look at reports that will accurately reflect where the business is, and we'll be able to answer the question, is our business profitable? And to do that, Quicken will give us a very easy way of being able to tell by going to the Reports tab, going to the Business section, and then pulling up the traditional profit and loss statement. When we pull up this statement, you're going to get a year-to-date number. What you'll want to do is you'll first want to look at the month-to-date number. This will be where you are right now in the month. You'll be able to look to find out if the business is profitable. In fact, if you look at your expenses and your income and something looks as if there is something that you need to investigate further, what you can do is you can actually hover over this particular line. You can actually click in to see what the line item is. You can actually click in even further to determine where these transactions actually were, what account they came out of, and then you can actually see the individual transaction and where they actually came from. So this is a good way of being able to analyze your expenses as well as your income. It's also a good practice to look at the past month to date. So you can actually look at last month, and you'll be able to tell and look at the previous 30 days to look to find out if you were profitable last month. And you can determine where your expenses are coming from by going to the line item, clicking in, and then you'll be able to actually click in even further by looking at these drop-down menus. You'll be able to tell where your larger expenses were. What you can also do is you can look at custom dates. You can look at the last 12 months, or you can look at a period, for example, between the middle of 2 months. You can actually look to find out where you're profitable and where you aren't. Although this data always resides in Quicken, what you can actually do is you can actually print the report, you can actually save it, and then place it into a file where you can back it up in another location. But remember, the key to a good financial statement is making sure that the details that you add in are correct when you categorize the expenses as you experience them. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Welcome back. Now, one of the things that will often happen is that you will be out and about with your mobile device, and if you have the Quicken app enabled, you can actually enter a transaction as well as capture the receipt when you are actually experiencing the event. So for example, if we were to go into a particular account, and let's say that we are going to spend money from our cash on hand account, what we would do is we would actually enter the plus button, and then we would enter the amount of the transaction. Then we would choose a payee, wherever it was that we were. And once we enter the $21 and we enter the payee, we're then going to click Next. That's going to bring us to this screen. And what we're going to do now is we're going to click the camera button. And we're actually going to take a digital image of the receipt. So we're going to click this Take Photo button. We're actually going to, and we're just going to hover over this. This is just a sheet of paper, but it would be a receipt if you were doing it otherwise. We then click Use Photo. And it would then be part of our receipt. We would then click the Done button. And then the transaction would be added. And you'll notice then that our balance has been reduced by $21. And when we actually open up our desktop application, we'll notice that when the sync takes place, we will then see this reduction in balance right on our desktop account. And what we would do inside of Quicken is we go and we just sync to our Quicken cloud and click Update. Once we do that, we would return to the cash on hand account, and we'll notice our $21 purchase with an attachment, which is our receipt. And you'll notice our receipt purchase. So what you'd be able to do is to track your expenses while you are away from your personal computer. Enter them into Quicken through your mobile device. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Welcome back. Now in this video, we're going to discuss how you can start tracking your business mileage using Quicken Home and Business. So if you go to the business section of Quicken, you will then see at the top right that there are certain business tools. And so if you pull this drop down menu, you'll see that there is a mileage tracker. You want to click that link. It's going to open up the vehicle mileage counter. And what you can do is you can actually track your mileage from any trip. Now, this mileage tracker does not exist on the mobile device. However, you can map the entire thing once you actually sit down at your computer. So every time that you take a trip, you'll want to make sure that you are marking in everything that you spent for your mileage as well as everything that you drove. Once you have all the information entered, you'll then click Enter Trip. Now there are other kinds of trips that you can track in Quicken, whether it's for charity, medical, your rental property, or any unreimbursed business. You will not be keeping track of your personal mileage. So every time you take a trip, you are going to want to write in the information, and you're going to enter it into the log. And if you are a United States taxpayer and you are working with your business to deduct mileage, you will need to have this log available for the taxing authorities. Now, if you have a log that you've been keeping already, you'll want to go back and enter it manually in order to reflect your keeping your log then in Quicken. But once you do that, on an ongoing basis, you want to come in every time that you've taken a trip, and you'll want to enter this information into the program. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Welcome back. Now, in conclusion, you will have noticed that we have done a lot of syncing to the cloud with our data. And you may ask, is your data actually safe when this happens? And of course, the answer to that is that it depends. And if you were to side on the side of caution, you would say no. No data transfer is ever fully secure. So if you are uncomfortable with transferring your data and syncing it to the cloud, Quicken will work without doing so. And in order to do that, what you'll need to do is you'll need to go to your one-step settings, and you'll need to go to this drop-down arrow, and then you'll need to go to the one-step update, and you'll need to then click all accounts. That will then bring you to your one-step settings, and what you'll need to do then is you can either take out your sync to the Quicken cloud, and then the program will actually work without the sync. What you can also do is you can manage the accounts that you are actually syncing. And so you can do this by clicking Manage Accounts to Sync. You can then choose the accounts that you will actually have syncing to the cloud, so that the only data that you have will be data that you don't mind actually if this data would be stolen or if it were accessed in some way. What you'll need to do then is once you've done that, you'll need to click Update Accounts. Quicken will then give you a warning, and then you will click OK. Now you could decide that you want to sync those accounts again to the cloud so that you can use your mobile device. What you would do is click Manage Accounts to Sync, and then you would recheck the boxes that you want the accounts to be synced again with your mobile device. You'd click Update Accounts. What this means now is that these accounts can be synced, but they will not be part of the one-step updates. If you'd like them all to be part of the one-step update where you click one button and Quicken then syncs to the cloud, you can then click this button. Once you do that, you can then say Update Now. Quicken will then go through a process of making sure that the program knows that you want all of your accounts ready to be synced again, and then your data will be synced to the cloud. So you have total control over whether or not your data is going to be synced to the cloud in order to use your mobile device with it. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video.